Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when the pain someone caused you begins to speak louder than your own value. A moment when rejection feels personal, betrayal feels permanent, and heartbreak convinces you that you are somehow less than who you were before. And when the person who hurts you is a man you trusted, loved, respected, or believed in, the wound often goes deeper than words can explain. It touches your confidence, your peace, your identity, and sometimes even your faith in yourself. But hear this carefully today. The way someone treats you does not define your worth. Pain is real, but pain is not your identity. What another person failed to appreciate in you does not reduce the value God placed inside you. Too many people spend years trying to recover from words that should never have been believed in the first place. One harsh sentence, one act of betrayal, one season of neglect, and suddenly they begin questioning everything about themselves. You must stop giving broken people the authority to determine how you see yourself. Some men hurt through anger. Some hurt through silence. Some hurt through manipulation, dishonesty, disrespect, or emotional stance. And one of the most dangerous things a wounded heart can do is begin chasing validation from the same person who caused the pain. You start trying harder, speaking softer, sacrificing more, hoping that maybe if you become enough, he will finally love you correctly. But no amount of self-sacrifice can force someone to value what they refuse to understand. Never confuse endurance with love. There are women carrying invisible wounds every single day, smiling on the outside while privately feeling rejected, unwanted, and emotionally exhausted. They replay conversations in their mind. They question what they could have done differently. They blame themselves for another person's behavior. And slowly, pain begins controlling their choices. Pain tells them to settle. Pain tells them to stay silent. Pain tells them they are difficult to love. But pain is a liar when it speaks against your worth. You were not created to live begging for affection. You were not designed to lose yourself trying to keep someone else comfortable. Real love does not require you to abandon your dignity. Real love does not constantly humiliate, manipulate, or destroy your peace. And if someone, why hurts you without remorse, you must stop calling that love and start calling it what it truly is: damage. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning that not everyone who enters your life is assigned to stay forever. Some people come as lessons. Some come as warnings. Some reveal strengths you never knew you had. And sometimes the greatest act of healing is accepting that a painful chapter cannot become your permanent home. You cannot heal while constantly reopening the wound. There are people listening right now who have allowed one man's opinion to become the mirror they look into every day. If he ignores them, they feel worthless. If he criticizes them, they feel small. If he leaves, they feel abandoned. But your value existed before he arrived, and it will remain after he is gone. A person's inability to recognize your worth does not erase your worth. You must remember who you are outside of the pain. And let me tell you something else. Healing is not pretending you were never hurt. Healing is not denying the tears, suppressing the memories, or acting strong while secretly breaking inside. True healing begins when you confront the pain honestly and refuse to let it see. Control your future. Healing begins when you stop asking, "Why did he hurt me?" and start asking, "Why have I allowed his actions to define me for so long?" There is power in reclaiming your mind. Some women lose themselves because they stayed too long in environments that constantly drained them emotionally. They ignored red flags because they feared loneliness. They tolerated disrespect because they hoped things would change. But peace should never cost you your identity. And staying in a place where your spirit is constantly wounded will eventually silence the best parts of who you are. Do not ignore the voice inside you that says you deserve better. Sometimes strength means walking away without revenge. Sometimes strength means choosing silence over another exhausting argument. Sometimes strength means rebuilding your life after disappointment without becoming bitter. And sometimes the most courageous thing a woman can do is look in the mirror after heartbreak and still believe she is worthy of love, respect, and happiness. Because your scars are not proof of weakness. They are proof you survived. There are people who will misuse your kindness because they mistake gentleness. SS for weakness. They think your patience means you will tolerate anything. But there comes a time when wisdom must replace emotional attachment. You cannot keep pouring your heart into people who repeatedly break it carelessly. You cannot continue rescuing people who refuse to change. Love should lift your spirit, not constantly crush it. And please understand this clearly. Forgiveness does not always mean reconnection. You can forgive someone and still choose distance. You can release bitterness without reopening the door to more pain. Forgiveness is freedom for your soul, not permission for someone to continue hurting you. Stop carrying emotional chains that were never yours to carry. The enemy of your peace is not always the person who hurt you. Sometimes it is the belief that you are only valuable when someone chooses you. But your worth is not measured by attention, affection, or approval from another human being. Your worth is rooted deeper than that. You are valuable because you were created with purpose. You are worthy because your existence matters. You are enough even before anyone applauds you, notices you, or loves you correctly. And when you truly understand that, everything changes. You stop chasing people who drain your spirit. You stop explaining your value to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop settling for crumbs when you deserve genuine care. You begin protecting your peace. You begin honoring your heart. You begin choosing environments where respect is natural instead of rare. The pain may have changed you, but it does not have permission to destroy you. One day you will look back and realize the heartbreak that almost broke you also revealed your strength. It taught you discernment. It taught you self-respect. It taught you how to stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of others. And while the tears were real, they were not wasted, because sometimes pain opens your eyes to truths comfort would have hidden forever. So if someone has hurt you deeply, do not let that pain become your identity. Do not let disappointment convince you that you are unworthy of real love. Do not surrender your confidence because someone else failed to protect your heart. Stand back up. Reclaim your peace, rebuild your confidence, and never allow another person's brokenness to make you forget the value that has always existed inside you. Here are many people walking through life carrying wounds that no one else can see. On the outside, they appear strong, calm, and composed, but inside they are battling the painful words, rejection, and emotional scars left behind by someone they trusted. One hurtful relationship, one betrayal, one season of being ignored or mistreated can slowly begin to shape the way a person sees themselves. Without realizing it, they allow another person's behavior to become the measure of their value. They begin believing that if they were truly lovable, they would not have been hurt. If they were truly important, they would not have been abandoned. If they were truly enough, they would not have been treated so poorly. But that thinking is dangerous because it gives broken people the power to define your identity. You must understand that the way someone treats you often reveals more about their character than your worth. A person who constantly lies, manipulates, disrespects, or emotionally wounds others is acting from their own unresolved issues, weaknesses, and brokenness. Yet many people internalize that pain and turn it against themselves. Instead of saying, that person chose to behave wrongly, they begin saying, there must be something wrong with me. And over time, that mindset slowly destroys confidence, peace, and self-respect. The truth is, your value was established long before someone hurt you. Your worth is not fragile. It does not disappear because another person failed to appreciate you. Gold remains valuable even when someone throws it in the dirt. A diamond does not lose its worth because someone refuses to recognize it. In the same way, your value remains intact even when you encounter people who cannot see your heart, your loyalty, your kindness, or your sacrifice. One of the greatest mistakes people make is trying to earn love by abandoning themselves. They become quieter to avoid conflict. They lower their standards to keep someone comfortable. They tolerate disrespect because they fear loneliness. They spend years trying to prove they are worthy of care and affection. But real love never requires you to destroy your dignity in order to receive it. The moment you start sacrificing your peace, your confidence, and your identity just to keep someone close, you are already paying too high a price. There are people who will criticize you simply because they do not understand you. Some will take advantage of your kindness. Others will make promises they never intended to keep. And if you are not careful, their actions can leave emotional fingerprints on your soul. You may begin questioning your beauty, your intelligence, your personality, or your future. You may compare yourself to others and wonder why you were not chosen, respected, or protected the way you deserved. But comparison and self-blame only deepen the wound. You cannot allow temporary pain to create permanent insecurity. Many people spend years trapped in emotional prisons built from someone else's opinions. One harsh sentence spoken during anger becomes a belief they carry for decades. One rejection becomes proof in their mind that they are not enough. But human opinions are unstable. People speak from emotion, pride, immaturity, and selfishness. If you build your identity on what others say about you, your confidence will constantly rise and fall depending on how people treat you. That is why your worth must be rooted deeper than human approval. You must learn to see yourself through truth rather than pain. Pain has a voice. It whispers that you are unwanted. It tells you that you are difficult to love. It convinces you that because someone walked away, you are unworthy of lasting happiness. But pain is not always truthful. Emotional wounds distort perspective. They make people forget their strengths, their purpose, and the goodness that still exists within them. And if you listen to pain long enough, it will eventually control your choices, your relationships, and your future. That is why healing begins with renewing the way you think about yourself. You must stop defining yourself by what hurt you. You are not the rejection you experienced. You are not the betrayal you survived. You are not the cruel words spoken over your life. Those experiences may have wounded you, but they do not have permission to become your identity. The moment you truly understand your value, you stop chasing validation from people who continually hurt you. You stop begging for attention from those who only appreciate you when it benefits them. You stop settling for relationships that constantly drain your spirit. Instead, you begin protecting your peace, honoring your heart, and recognizing that your worth does not increase when someone loves you or does. Decrease when someone leaves you. Many people believe healing means forgetting what happened, pretending the pain never existed, or forcing themselves to move on before their heart is truly ready. But real healing does not happen through denial. It begins when you become honest about the wounds you carry and decide that your pain will no longer control the direction of your life. There are individuals who smile every day while secretly carrying emotional burdens that are draining their spirit. They wake up thinking about what hurt them. They replay conversations in their mind. They relive betrayal, rejection, disappointment, and heartbreak over and over again. And without realizing it, pain slowly becomes the center of their identity. Pain has a way of changing how people see everything. It can make strong people feel weak. It can make hopeful people become fearful. It can make loving people build emotional walls so high that no one can reach them anymore. One painful experience can cause someone to stop trusting, stop believing in themselves, and stop expecting good things from life. That is why emotional wounds must be dealt with carefully. If left untreated, they begin controlling your emotions, decisions, relationships, and future. Some people stay emotionally attached to the very thing that is destroying their peace. They continue chasing people who constantly hurt them because they fear loneliness more than suffering. They convince themselves that enduring emotional pain is proof of loyalty. But healing cannot begin while you remain connected to what keeps breaking you. You cannot recover in an environment that constantly reopens the wound. There are people who have spent years carrying bitterness from something that happened long ago. The situation may have ended, but the pain still controls them daily. It affects the way they speak, love, trust, and respond to others. They become defensive, angry, emotionally distant, or insecure because unresolved pain always finds a way to express itself. When hurt remains unhealed, it eventually shapes your behavior without your permission. That is why healing requires courage. It takes courage to confront painful memories instead of running from them. It takes courage to admit that certain experiences changed you emotionally, and it takes courage to stop blaming yourself for the actions of people who chose to who. Are you there? Many individuals spend years asking, "Why did this happen to me?" while carrying guilt that was never theirs to carry. But not every painful experience is your fault. Some people hurt others simply because they are broken themselves. Healing also requires releasing the need to constantly seek answers from those who wounded you. Sometimes closure does not come from another conversation, another apology, or another explanation. Sometimes closure comes from accepting that you deserve peace even if you never receive the answers you wanted. Waiting for someone else to repair the damage they caused can keep you emotionally trapped for years. At some point, your healing must become your responsibility. One of the most powerful moments in life is when a person finally decides that their future matters more than their pain. That is the moment they stop allowing heartbreak to define their identity. They stop rehearsing old wounds every day. They stop giving emotional power to people who already took too much from them. Instead of remaining stuck in resentment, they begin rebuilding themselves slowly, patiently, and intentionally. Healing is not instant. Some wounds heal quietly over. Every time. Some require deep emotional work, and there will be days when memories return unexpectedly. But progress happens when pain no longer controls your choices. You know healing is taking place when you stop needing revenge to feel strong. You know healing is happening when your peace becomes more important than proving your point. You know healing is growing when you can remember what happened without allowing it to destroy your joy. Pain often whispers lies to the human heart. It says you will never recover, you will never trust again, you will always feel broken. But pain is temporary when you refuse to feed it constantly. The human spirit is stronger than many people realize. There is strength inside you that suffering cannot destroy. There is wisdom that can grow from heartbreak. There is maturity that can come from disappointment. And sometimes the very experience that nearly breaks you becomes the thing that teaches you how valuable your peace truly is. You must stop identifying yourself by your wounds. You are not merely someone who was rejected, betrayed, abandoned, or hurt. Those things may have happened to you, but they are not the total story of your life. Pain was real, but it does not have the authority to determine your future. Every day you wake up is another opportunity to reclaim your confidence, protect your peace, and refuse to let yesterday's hurt control tomorrow's life. One of the most important lessons a person can learn in life is that peace is valuable, and not everyone deserves access to it. Too many people spend years tolerating disrespect, emotional confusion, and constant hurt because they are afraid of letting go. They hold on to relationships that drain them mentally and emotionally, hoping that one day things will change. They continue accepting behavior that breaks their spirit because they fear loneliness more than suffering. But there comes a moment when you must realize that protecting your peace is not selfish. It is necessary for your emotional and spiritual well-being. There are relationships that leave people exhausted instead of fulfilled. Instead of feeling loved, they feel anxious. Instead of feeling secure, they constantly feel uncertain. Every conversation becomes emotionally heavy. Every disagreement turns into emotional damage. They begin walking on eggshells, carefully choosing words, suppressing emotions, and sacrificing their own happiness just to avoid conflict. Over time, this slowly destroys confidence and inner peace. A person who once felt strong and joyful can become emotionally drained simply because they stayed too long in an unhealthy environment. Disrespect rarely begins with something obvious. It often starts small. A careless comment, a broken promise, a dismissive attitude, a lack of consideration for your feelings. And many people ignore these signs because they want the relationship to work so badly. They make excuses for behavior that should have been confronted early. They tell themselves maybe things will improve while their emotional health continues to suffer. But what you repeatedly tolerate will eventually become normal to the people around you. You teach others how to treat you by what you allow consistently. There are individuals who confuse love with endless sacrifice. They believe loving someone means enduring constant pain silently. They think patience means accepting disrespect repeatedly. But real love is never built on humiliation, manipulation, fear, or emotional exhaustion. A healthy relationship should bring peace, support, encourage, respect, and mutual respect. It should not constantly leave you feeling emotionally wounded and mentally drained. Many people remain trapped in painful situations because they are emotionally attached to potential instead of reality. They keep holding on to who someone could become instead of facing who that person is right now. They fall in love with promises while ignoring patterns. But patterns reveal character more than words ever will. Someone can apologize many times, but if their behavior never changes, the apology loses its meaning. Protecting your peace sometimes requires difficult decisions. It may require setting boundaries with people you deeply care about. It may require creating distance from those who constantly disrespect your emotions. And sometimes it may require walking away completely from environments that continually damage your spirit. Not because you hate the person, but because you finally love yourself enough to stop accepting what destroys your peace. There is strength in saying, "I deserve better than this." Some people are afraid of boundaries because they worry others will leave. But the people who truly value you will respect the standards you set for your life. Boundaries are not acts of cruelty. They are acts of wisdom. They protect your emotional health, your mental stability, and your sense of self-worth. Without boundaries, people will continue taking from you until there is nothing left emotionally. You cannot continue pouring love into places where respect does not exist. One of the greatest forms of self-respect is refusing to chase people who consistently mistreat you. When someone repeatedly ignores your value, dismisses your feelings, or causes emotional harm without genuine remorse, constantly pursuing them only deepens the wound. You must stop trying to convince people to appreciate what they are determined to overlook. Your worth does not decrease because someone fails to recognize it. Protecting your peace also means being careful about what you allow into your mind daily. Some people keep replaying painful memories, toxic conversations, and emotional disappointments until those things consume their thoughts entirely. But healing requires creating space for peace, growth, and restoration. You cannot constantly feed your mind negativity and expect your spirit to remain healthy. There are moments in life where walking away becomes an act of survival for your soul. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every argument deserves your response. And not every person deserves unlimited access to your heart. Wisdom teaches you to recognize when a situation is costing you too much emotionally. You deserve relationships where respect is natural, not forced. You deserve connections where honesty exists without manipulation. You deserve to feel emotionally safe instead of constantly anxious. And once you begin valuing your peace properly, you stop settling for environments that continuously steal your joy. You become more careful about who you allow close to your heart. You stop begging for love from people who repeatedly choose to hurt you. You stop lowering your standards just to avoid being alone. Because loneliness may feel painful for a season, but losing yourself completely in toxic situations creates a far deeper kind of suffering. There comes a point in life when a person must make a decision, either remain trapped in the pain of the past or rise above it and rediscover their strength. Many people stay emotionally stuck because they keep revisiting what hurt them instead of focusing on what can heal them. They replay old memories, old disappointments, and old betrayals until the pain becomes part of their identity. But you cannot move into a better future while constantly living inside yesterday's wounds. The human heart was never designed to carry endless bitterness, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. Those things slowly steal joy, confidence, and peace from within. Some people become so accustomed to pain that they no longer remember what emotional freedom feels like. They wake up burdened by sadness. They carry silent anger into every conversation. They stop trusting others, stop believing in love, and stop believing that life can become better again. But no matter how deeply you have been hurt, your future still has value. Your painful experiences may have changed you, but they do not have the authority to destroy your purpose. One of the greatest dangers of emotional pain is that it can convince a person to give up on themselves completely. After enough disappointment, people start settling for less than they deserve. They stop expecting honesty. They stop expecting respect. They stop believing they are worthy of healthy love and genuine happiness. Pain lowers expectations quietly. It teaches people to tolerate things they once would never have accepted. And over time, they begin surviving instead of truly living. But there is a difference between surviving and healing. Survival says, I'll just get through another day. Healing says, I deserve peace again. Survival hides wounds behind fake smiles. Healing confronts the pain honestly and chooses growth instead of bitterness. Healing requires courage because it forces you to face truths you may have avoided for a long time. It forces you to acknowledge that some relationships harmed you deeply. It forces you to admit that certain people were never healthy for your spirit. And it forces you to stop blaming yourself for the poor choices and behavior of others. There are individuals who spend years trying to fix people who continuously break them emotionally. They believe if they love harder, sacrifice more, or stay patient longer, things will eventually change. But you cannot heal someone who refuses to change, and you cannot build peace with someone committed to chaos. At some point, wisdom must become stronger than emotional attachment. You must stop sacrificing your I'll be to save relationships that are destroying you. One of the most powerful moments in life is when a person finally understands that walking away from constant pain is not weakness. It is self-respect. There are situations where staying only deepens the wound. There are relationships where every conversation leaves you emotionally exhausted. There are environments where your spirit slowly loses its light. And when you remain in those places too long, you begin forgetting who you were before the pain entered your life. That is why rediscovering yourself is such an important part of healing. Pain often causes people to lose their identity. They become consumed by heartbreak, disappointment, and emotional confusion. They stop pursuing their goals. They neglect their peace. They lose confidence in their voice, their beauty, their strength, and their future.